सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय, महायोगी स्वामी उमानंद सरस्वती की जय. Friends, yes, I'm going to take you into one more little topic, which is management of time. Before I go and tell you about the management of time, I would like to introduce a short story to you. I must have told in my earlier videos, but let me repeat it because it's an important story. It is once said that one man, he was very poor, and this poor man was an ardent devotee of Lord Shiva. And his poverty never ended. So once the goddess Parvati, she turned to Lord Shiva and she says, I see your ardent devotee is struggling very much for his daily bread. Why don't you bless him with something so he has sufficient in store and he can continue worshipping you without disturbing or without having anxiety over his daily bread. So Lord Shiva says, it's not there in his destiny to have a backup, a store backup. So she says, how do you say that? He says, I'll show it to you. And he one day places a pot of gold coins on the way for this devotee to come across so that he can have a store kept for himself and he can turn to his devotional practices. So in that morning, as usual, the poor man gets up and he's on his daily round for begging. Once he's about to step out, a thought strikes him. And the thought says this, why don't I pretend to be blind? Maybe people will have more compassion and they will give me a few more coins. And so he decides to play blind. And yeah, I'm sure you've got the rest of the story. But I would like to complete it for the youngsters. So as he's moving on, he closes his eyes and taps his way across the pot without noticing it. And now this is timing. He misses the pot. Now this is called timing. Now remember, the time given to you might be a very short time. And if we are not alert, if we are not aware, then we are going to miss out the moments. Now, significance of time, or management of time, becomes a very essential part of our day-to-day life. This message is especially for students. Of course, it could be applied to each one of us. People of our age, they also need to know the value of time. People who are not well and they have the last few years left or months left and who are considered to be terminating cases, for them also this message could come handy. So let's apply this management of time and see whether we can apply it, but apply it in a positive attitude, with a positive attitude. We are only trying to understand how the time is not as big as it appears at times and is also not as short it appears at times. So it's up to us. If you want the time to be short, well, it can be short. And if you want it to be a long period, well, it can be considered long. So we can let the time not rule you. we must learn to rule the time. Now, I'll give you one example where we can understand this better. Once a student had come to me, and he was an engineering student, and he had not cleared his papers in his earlier appearance for the exams, and he had 2 months. So he had come to me, and this time he was very sure that he would pass. So he was quite relaxed. But when he came to me and he said, he was, I saw that he sat there, and it was, he could have left much earlier, but he continued to stop and stay back. So I wanted to remind him that he had his exams because I knew it. And then I asked him, I said, when are your exams? So he says, oh, I still have 2 months. So I said, oh, very good. So, and how are you prepared? So he said, yes, I'm quite well prepared. I mean, it's the second time I'm appearing, and I know my material now better, so I'm prepared. But somehow a bell rang in my mind and said, no, he needs to study more. But however, I was to pass the message on very gently to him. So I said, all right, now you sit here near me and let me talk to you. So I said, how many papers do you need to write during the exams? So he said, about 6 papers. So I said, all right, so good, I said. So you have 60 days and 6 papers. I said, well, you get per day, you get about 10 days. Well, that's quite a lot, I said. And then I said, of course, out of 60 days, we tend to sleep 1/3 of the time. 8 hours per day is 1/3 of 24 hours per day. So 8 hours of sleep will obviously give you now 20 days less. So I said, you have 40 days still for six papers. So almost 6 days per paper. And then I said, well, of course, another 20 days have to go in your day-to-day chores. You need to have other activities to be done. You have your breakfast, you have your bath, you have things, and we leave 8 hours aside. So we get another 20 days off. So I said, now you're left with actually 20 days for 6 papers. So it is 3, almost about 3¼ or 3½, let's say. We'll be a little more generous to ourselves. So 3½ hours day per paper you get. So I said, in that, I'm sure you're going to read it once, twice, and a repetition a third time. And I was coming down and down and down. And somehow I started seeing an uneasy feeling on his face. I had to control my smile because I was pretending to be wanting to understand more than trying to tell him that I know. So I was wanting to understand. And I said, all right, so you still have 3 days per. So I said, you must be wanting to at least just revise 5 years of question paper per paper. So 5 questions per paper. So that must be about 50 questions. So 50 questions you need to solve or revise. So in 3 days per paper. So that will give you, let's say, and suddenly he got up and he said, Swamiji, I think I understood what you're trying to say. So I shall leave now with your blessings because now I'm getting scared. So I said, I just wanted to wake you up, young man. I said, now you go ahead, you study for your exams. All right. Now this is management of time. A simple, a little, just little setup that you need to know. I remind myself, I'm 70 today. Say, let's say I have another grace 10 bonus years. I'm not sure whether it will be that long. But if at all I have, then I know it's about how many years will that be? Just how many hours? 3,650 hours only. Friends, it is only having 3,650 hours at my hand. Now, this message is for a working person who wants to work. So, out of these 3,650 hours, 1,000 hours I'm going to sleep, right? So, I get 2,650. Then another 1,000 I'm going to use for my daily chores. So I get 1,650 hours only. So even if I decide to take up translations of Ved, hope I should be able to complete that. All right. Now this is also, this time management can be read the other way around, even for people who are not well and know for sure that, well, they have a couple of months left. So again, we could utilize it to do. Now you can do the best sadhana for people who are not well is japa sadhana. So you tend to do your japa. Japa is, as I told you, you have this. And let's say if you have this sadhana and you have a few days, let's say, left in the hospital and you need to go back home. All right, then you can, of course, go through your computers. Nowadays, modern technology takes you, if you don't know computers. But if suppose you know that, all right, now that's a tapering end, I am at my tapering ends, and I want to try and make up and try and really see God. I mean, before I go, I must see the Creator once at least before I go. So for that, if you have an intensive program, last 10 days or 20 days or 2 months or 6 months, let's say, then I think in those 6 months you could utilize every minute of it, and you will look forward for those moments with your sadhana. Friends, time is a very important factor in our life. It can be handled by looking at it correctly. Utilize every minute and be sure how much time you have at hand for any activity to be undertaken. And it's a small message today, and I would like to remind you once again that we are at closer to 18th Akshaya Tritiya Muhurta, where I'm looking for auspicious day, where I'm looking forward to start diploma. Of course, we might be having some summer sessions, which will be directly taken in person, but probably, let's see, I'm not yet sure. But of course, through videos, we will be definitely talking about Kundalini Yoga. And while telling you about the yoga, I will also be introducing you how various Upanishads have dealt with this yoga. In brief, we have introduced Chandilya Upanishad in Marathi, but for my English viewers, I'm going to start the entire program on 18th. Be glued to my video YouTube. Try and help to introduce various subscribers to our channel. The idea is more and more people are able to sit at home and learn what is so beautiful about our religion. And let's bring peace and happiness and knowledge, true knowledge, to people. This is Swami Radhikanand from Pune.